4 p.m. on the West Coast, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, live with Nat and the Guy.
Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy.
And I swear it feels like today one of the planets is doing something weird because nothing has worked. All the technology has failed during this. I have no time apparently to do anything. So it's been a little bit hectic today, but
let's get into the stories here.
So the first one, I mean, of course, we watched the debate, the J.D. Vance Tim Walz debate. And while yesterday I said that it was going to be predictable, I don't know if I predicted how awful it would be for Tim Walz. I mean, yes, he seemed approachable and he seemed nice, but he just ended up being destroyed by J.D. Vance.
Well, what other stories do we have? Let's tell them the stories and then get into the debate.
Also there is now a story circulating about Kamala Harris's husband. Hasn't been 100% corroborated, but he might not be this ideal beta man that they're making him out to be. And then there's also some stuff about Kamala.
Yeah, I got a bunch of videos about Kamala. One's about state-funded sex changes for transgendered inmates, gender-affirming care for minors, infringing on freedom of speech, and Venezuelan gangs and immigration. These are 4 separate clips that she's really getting exposed on her own words on things she said she wasn't doing. And the last story is going to be updates on the hurricanes and things that are going on with that.
Yeah, it seems like the U.S. government doesn't really care about what's going on there. Only the people themselves do. But let's see just one of the spectacular moments from the debate. This is J.D. Vance essentially having to fact check that they were trying to do to him. And he just did it splendidly, as the lawyer he is.
And just to clarify
we are hearing it. See, I'm telling you, the technology is off today.
It's you that's off today.
Some planet is messing with us.
Anybody that watched my morning show will know that.
That was also you too.
And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy.
Margaret, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
The condescension on that woman, I swear. As a woman, it just annoys me. But, I mean, he had to fact check his own fact check. They were trying to say, yes, of course, this is a legal process. And her whole, as a woman, I'm sure if any women are watching or will watch, if any other woman, you hear them going like, oh, yeah, you're just explaining thank you for explaining the legal process. If there was one moment that really annoyed me with the moderators was that, even though after they were slightly more also attacking on Tim Walz, but the fact is that there is an app that the migrants kind of log into as they're walking through the border, and then they just get given a court date. And if they're asylum seekers or not, well, then let's just believe them, because believe all migrants as well, apparently.
Well, I think Ron DeSantis just lost the 2028 nomination. J.D. Vance really planted the flag for going forward what the MAGA movement is going to be. He's young, he's youthful, he's a populist. He has all the right ideals. He's extremely well-spoken. He was probably one of the best political debaters I've seen that's a politician, and maybe since I've been alive, actually. I have seen good politicians before I was alive or before I was involved in politics, but J.D. Vance really showed what it means to be thoroughly prepared for a debate. He made Tim Walz look like a deer in the headlights. Tim Walz was lucky he didn't go hard at J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance played nice with him, and it was really the best case scenario for Tim Walz. J.D. Vance didn't want to be viewed as a radicalist or somebody that was a weirdo, because that's what they've been trying to label him as a lot lately. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, also speaking on fact checking, the New York Times tried to fact check the whole abortion issue. The fact that J.D. Vance had said that, well, he said the statute you sign into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. And then within their false fact-checking, the New York Times actually essentially just proved J.D. Vance as being true, because they say Vance distorted Walz's repeal of a so-called Born Alive law that had been in effect in Minnesota since the 1970s. That law required doctors to report when a live child was born as a result of an abortion and provide all reasonable measures consistent with good medical practice to care for that infant.
Yeah, it was really strange that they the rules of the debate were there was going to be no fact checks, but it just seems like they followed up questions to J.D. Vance with their own little fact notes, I guess you would call them.
Yeah.
Like, climate change is real. All scientists agree climate change is real after the climate change questions. And then when it came to Haitian migrants, it goes, all the Haitian migrants in Ohio are legal immigrants. Like, these little things that just were completely biased the debate, and the moderators of the debate just looked completely biased. Not as bad as the last debate with Trump,
the NBC
but
one.
man, it just, can they not be non-biased at all? I don't know.
Well, and I mean, with these little interjections and fact checks, and now the fact checks that are coming out, the true ones and the fake ones, as we just saw from the New York Times, I mean, they're just proving the point that he did ban, like, he repealed the whole measure of the Born Alive thing, and people are trying to focus on the abortion issues, especially because that's what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have kind of championed their whole movement through. They've also spoken about how important abortion will be in this election, and they just keep getting hit after hit after hit of their claims being proven false.
Well, they spent not billions, hundreds of millions of dollars when J.D. Vance was selected as the VP to have a smear campaign. They called him a weirdo. They said he was humping a couch. And then they repeatedly called him a weirdo, a weirdo, a weirdo again. And that's all you heard. And now J.D. Vance got on stage. The American public finally got to see him. And he looked like the most normal guy of all the politicians I've seen. He looked normal, prepared, well-spoken. He did a fantastic job. All that hundreds of millions of dollars they threw at that smear campaign just melted away in 1 hour.
Yeah, and apparently also, like, a lot of millennial women, a lot of Gen Z women are just saying how attractive he is.
Well, he used to not look like that. He used to actually be a kind of pudgy fat guy, and now he's looking like he could model or something.
Yeah, and like everybody's commenting on his baby blue eyes and how he was this powerful lawyer just bringing all the facts in. And I don't think it's a good look for them to have called him weird for so long, and now all of the women are swooning over him. And the reverse with Tim Walz, they were trying to make him this approachable, run-of-the-mill guy.
Yeah,
that
like
understands
I will say Tim Walz wasn't necessarily weird in his answer. He was overly prepared, and that made him really nervous. Like, he had too many things going through his head, it seemed like. But what made Tim Walz weird was his body language.
Through his eyes.
He would just open his eyes like a deer in the headlight. He would just snarl at J.D. Vance. He had no situational awareness of what his body was doing, and it made him look really strange for anybody that was viewing the debate. Now, if you listen to the debate rather than view it, you might have not got the same impression, but man, he looked weird to me.
Yeah, and we actually have Politico in this article trying to defend his body language. So they have eight body language.
This is what you call democratic cope.
Yes, the 8 body language tells from the vice presidential debate. And I just want to go all the way down to the one where they're talking about his eyes, because they say Walz's wide eyes showed his passion. When Walz felt especially passionate about something, he'd open his eyes wide as saucers. Eye-popping can sometimes be a sign of surprise, but for Walz, it has simply revealed his emotional intensity, like this moment during an exchange about abortion. And they go on to try to justify why he is opening his eyes as if he is on something, or just completely bewildered or scared about, well, scared obviously, but scared about something coming out, or I don't know.
I think he was nervous.
The whole situation in general.
I think he was just nervous. And I mean, the debate questions were really, handpicked for Waltz, and they brought up January 6th and things like this, but I think it really backfired because the two best issues for Waltz was January 6th.
For JD Vance?
No, for Tim Waltz. The best two issues for Tim Waltz was January 6th and the abortion issue. They played very well for Waltz. The problem with that is everybody that's going to vote in this election that their primary care is either abortion or January 6th is already voting for a Democrat. The moderates don't care. We've already seen the polling with that. The moderates care about the border, the economy, immigration, and crime. And on all of those subjects, J.D. Vance just annihilated Waltz, and Waltz looked like a deer in the headlights during those subjects. During the abortion subject, he was just so keen, but he was so keen, he said lie after lie after lie. It was like, oh, I'm for IVF, and trying to make it out to be that the Trump campaign isn't for IVF. And that's just completely false because Donald Trump wants to include that in healthcare and the primary health care for all that the government will provide for free.
That is especially needed right now because we're seeing infertility rates skyrocket. And I wonder if any of these big corporations that are all supporting the Democrats have anything to do with it.
I did like JD's approach to the abortion issue. He had a much more moderate approach than many Republicans. Most Republicans say abortion bad, we're going to ban abortion, and that's where we're going. You can't do that. Like if you do that, you're going to have so much pushback to it. You have to get there slowly over time. You have to win the cultural battle. And what do I mean by that? Just what J.D. Vance said. And he put out a game plan for that. He said, we need to make it culturally unviable for abortion by creating a welcoming environment for families within the United States, meaning we need health care. We need health care. We need child care. We need make it possible for a one family income to support a family, things like this. So many women get abortions based on financial issues, and they feel like it's going to ruin their life. J.D. Vance is talking about trying to fix those financial issues within the economy first. So abortion becomes a much more rare thing. They're not handing them out like lollipops.
So it goes back to abortion being not illegal, but untenable, something that you should not even consider as something you should do, either because you are using protection and being a responsible adult whenever you have sexual relations, or because you have the financial measures and aid, if not from the government, from other organizations, to actually have a family, and maybe that could be something you would want. But nowadays we see abortions being used as birth control, which is
they're funded by the government.
For the women, it's not for.
They're funded by the government through Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
You just make it as easy as possible, and they target vulnerable communities like minority communities. The Black community has a much higher rate of abortion because of where these clinics are and where this propaganda is.
And it actually started kind of that way. That was the whole purpose of Planned Parenthood, but we're not getting into the sordid history of Planned Parenthood. But I also want to show how Jen Psaki, the old press secretary from the Biden administration, actually talked and tried to defend Tim Waltz, saying how he should be allowed to cry and have his feelings. And this continues on with the whole way they're trying to emasculate both him and Doug Emhoff. But we'll talk about him in a minute.
Let's see the clip here.
But coming out of it, I hope that they free Tim Waltz and put him out there and let him be rusty at times and make mistakes and hug football players and cry and be funny sometimes. That's the magic. That's why he's on the ticket. But coming out.
Is that why he's on the ticket?
That's the magic. That's why he's on the ticket. That's why you're making fake photos of him at a football game cheering when nobody's on the field. And then you have to crop the photo to make it look like possibly somebody's on the field. And then, I really wish J.D. Vance had been a little harder in the debate. I understand why he wasn't, so maybe it was a good move. But Tim Waltz's wife is absolutely crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen a clip of this girl, but if you haven't, go look it up. But she was talking about during the BLM protests in Minnesota that she was opening the window so she could smell the burning tires because it was a good thing. They were all about defunding the police. Now they're all about, let's build a border wall. They were calling a border wall racist before, and now they want to build it. And he's talking about how he's a hunter. One thing a lot of people missed is Tim Waltz said Kamala Harris was a hunter during the debate, which was absolutely insane. He probably misspoke and meant she had a gun, which she probably bought a gun just before she had the VP nomination, so she can say that she's a gun owner. She doesn't want to take your guns, when she said in the past the complete opposite thing.
Well, I mean, I think the whole Kamala Harris is a hunter might have been an actually asserted comment from Tim Walz, because she, as a prosecutor, did used to hunt and lock up and leave people locked up for way longer than their sentences. So maybe she is a hunter, just not the kind
she
that
was
we're
hunting.
thinking about.
She was hunting young black males, and the fact that Candace Owens is uncovering the fact that she's may not be black now. That would make her a racist.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the whole Candace thing, I mean...
Oh, God, every day it's an hour after hour. Her Kamala Harris's family members are contacting her now. It's going to be an October surprise coming.
Yeah, I mean, once the investigation gets a little bit, more in depth, I'm guessing we should cover it. But some more stuff has to come out before it's fully corroborated. But speaking of an October surprise... we're just finding out that Kamala Harris's beta-cucked husband, Doug Emhoff, might not be as, pure and lovely and wonderful as a first husband as they're trying to make him out to be. Because, and again, this is not like 100%, it's from the Daily Mail, it's not 100% super fact-checked, but
Let's just see what the Daily Mail says here.
So it says, Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, forcefully slapped ex-girlfriend for flirting with another man in booze-fueled assault after date to star-studded gala. So apparently him and his ex-girlfriend went out to Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival in France, and apparently while waiting in a valet line, he struck the woman in the face so hard she spun around while waiting for the car. And all of this because it seems that while she went to try to go get a taxi cab or something to get out of there, she kind of just put her hand on the shoulder of the valet, and he got in a rage and apparently decided to go slap her so hard that her whole body turned around. And this is again coming out.
Well, maybe that's how they met. Maybe she was prosecuting him. No, maybe. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But
it says the Daily Mail is not naming the woman, who is a successful New York attorney, but will refer to her as the pseudonym Jane. A second friend said Jane, who had been dating Emhoff for 3 months, also told her about the alleged violence at the time. A third friend told Daily Mail that Jane told her in 2014 that she had dated Emhoff and recounted the story of his alleged abuse in 2018 when the Senator Harris was in the news after grilling Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in a Senate hearing over sexual assault allegations. The friends, who all asked not to be named for fear of retaliation by Emhoff, shared with DailyMail.com pictures of him and Jane together in 2012 and other documents and communications corroborating elements of the story. And there they are. And, I mean, it goes on and on about how the shocking allegations went.
This is just crazy. You're hitting a woman because she's flirting with somebody else. This is ridiculous. If a woman's going to cheat on you or flirt with somebody else, she's doing you a favor because she's revealing who she is. And all he had to do was leave. Mm-hmm. He could have just took the car and left.
And I mean, they're trying to make... They're trying to make him off as this whole new version of masculinity. That's what they keep saying. And if this is a new version of masculinity that the Democrats want to put out, well, I think no man should ever touch a woman, and that actually makes you way less of a man than any man that tries to protect them, which is the actual duty of a man. But the fact that this is now coming out in October, and then, of course, we know...
Well, it's crazy. All this crazy spousal abuse and child abuse is coming out about the Democratic candidates, and the Democrats are the ones that are always virtue signaling that they're holier than thou. Oh, we've seen Tim Walz on stage with his son, yanking him left to right. It's just, I mean, maybe I understand he's mentally handicapped and he thought he was going to hit a teleprompter, but man, it didn't look good on TV. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and I mean, and it follows because these are not the only allegations that Doug Emhoff has had. So the shocking details.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, the shocking claims follow. Well, this was beforehand. This had already come out, but follow revelations by Daily Mail that Emhoff cheated on his first wife and mother of his 2 kids around 2008, allegedly impregnating his daughter's nanny, who was also working as her grade school teacher. And Emhoff admitted the affair with the nanny and teacher, Naja Naylor, after they had published this story last month, and now all of the friends of this new lady are also claiming that they have way more stuff to show, and that they're kind of afraid that now that Emhoff has nonchalantly admitted to impregnating this other lady.
God, this sounds like the Kamala Harris family with the stuff Candace is saying. It's like they're almost like mirror images, but continue.
And, I mean, when Doug Emhoff was, confronted about the fact that he had impregnated this nanny, he said that the nanny had actually accused him of causing her to have a miscarriage, which might be a way to imply that the reason why she miscarried was because of, violence or violent trends. And the second gentleman allegedly confessed to Jane that he paid the nanny a settlement of around $80,000 and signed a non-disclosure agreement. And again, he has been dubbed by Democrats as a wife guy and a mensch, which is a way for Jewish people to call like
$80,000. Hell, Donald Trump and the Republican Party is going to offer a whole lot of money for her to break that non-disclosure agreement. But that's just my guess.
Yeah, and he said he's always been like this to Psaki. To him, it's the right thing to do to support women. And I mean, this is just another way to show that the Democrats are a lot of talk, but don't really know how to actually do the things that they purport to do and the people they purport to be. Because,
on that, do you have another story or?
Well, I mean, I wanted to touch on his daughter. I mean,
okay, yeah, I didn't know any of this. Let me see. Well, I see you got a crazy picture up here.
So this is Ella Emhoff, Doug Emhoff's daughter, who has been, signed on as a model for some reason. And the whole fact that he's saying that, and they're saying that he's this great father and that he really loves his children. When you see people that intentionally, especially girls, intentionally make themselves look uglier, it probably means that they have some trauma and some really bad things happening to them. Of course, her parents getting divorced, and then the nanny thing, and now this and that. But the fact that they're trying to champion this girl as someone that is the future of Gen Z and how all of Gen Z girls should be nowadays.
God, she looks like that girl from Twilight that just completely ruined herself.
Yeah.
Man, what's that girl's name? Kristen Stewart.
I used to really like her. And
now she looks like Joe Dirt with her mullet.
Yeah, it's the problem. Like, all these girls are losing their femininity and being encouraged to do so. And then all the men are apparently...
Why are you losing your femininity? So you can be a bad imitation of a man? Like, you're never going to compete with a man. And you, like...
But now the men that they're trying to, emasculate again and show this new kind of masculinity... What Doug Emhoff has done is actually what I would call real toxic masculinity. I mean, hitting women, allegedly, and paying off women to stay silent, allegedly.
And again, this is Kamala Harris's husband.
Yes.
I know we keep saying Doug Emhoff, but in case you're losing track, that is Kamala Harris's husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go into this. These clips come from the liberal hive mind. The first clip is the one that I was really wanting to show, but I continue to watch the video, and man, he had a lot of good stuff. There was actually 10 clips in this. I just chose 4, and all this dirt from Kamala Harris's past, where she did interviews. These are words directly from her mouth and from the Harris administration. It's all coming out now. And it's being plastered all over the internet. She's sinking her own campaign with her own words. But let's start with the first one, which is state-funded sex changes for transgendered inmates. Seems to be a large passion of Kamala Harris's.
I learned that the California Department of Corrections, which was a client of mine, I didn't get to choose my clients.
Right, a client of the Attorney General.
A client of the Attorney General, right. Of the Office of Attorney General. That they were standing in the way of surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. And there was a specific case. And when I learned about the case, I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving. So it wasn't only about that case. I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need.
I guess Donald Trump's not left.
Okay. So I gotta say, man, Kamala Harris is making me look like a liar. Like the things that I said yesterday. Okay, I will admit it was a lie, but I wasn't thinking about this situation. I said I only care about this transgendered situation with kids. I don't care what adults do. But this is the one situation where, yeah, I really do care what adults do when. It's state-funded sex changes for inmates, and then they're going to put them in women's prisons, and women are getting raped by these sex offenders, because the majority of people that want transitions in the prison population are sex offenders. Mm-hmm. Like, this is, my God, it's like, and the fact that she's so open and just brazen about it, and then she calls Donald Trump a liar when he says that she said this, and now, now it's coming out.
Well, she also wanted to do sex changes for migrants. And why are they so obsessed with transitioning everybody? Like, what's the whole point? Why? Why do they want to transition everyone? And as you say, like, there's been reported cases in Canada, in the UK, in the US about transgender female inmates being transferred to female prisons and then impregnating some of the prison population of actual women, a lot of them who have been through abuse, a lot of them who the last thing they want to do is have to interact with a man while they're imprisoned, and now they're also having to fear for their lives or for being raped by one of these
This was
women.
a huge scandal in the California prison system specifically. This was happening a lot in the California prison system, where all you had to do as a male was identify as a female. Even if you were fully functional, you would be put in the female population with 6 other female prisoners in your cell. The male prisoners that were now in the female cells began to rape these women. And when the women then got pregnant and complained to the authorities within the prison, they were offered abortions, and the male inmate was not taken out of the cell. Instead, condoms were provided in the general area as a solution. Like, why are you giving out grape condoms? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's one thing if it was consensual, but at this point, they're saying it's number one, it's not consensual, and number two, the man shouldn't be there in the first place. It's crazy.
And why are they so obsessed with forcing this down people's throats, even people that don't want it? Because there was also that clip that came out, I don't think we have it right now, but of Kamala saying that she wanted to make sure that migrants were able to transition and that there was a full program for migrants to be able to transition. And that was one of her priorities during the last primaries when she did terribly. And then she tried to deny that as well. So the obsession of the left, let's say, or the progressives with transitioning, I think goes, psychologically, something's off in their heads, but it also goes deeper into, I'm guessing, where they want society to go. They don't want men to be men anymore. They literally want men to be women now.
This is what Democrats have become: ultra progressive. Rather than being traditional liberal with traditional liberal values, I guess they were always going to progress. They progressed right off the cliff. And these are just radical policies. I'm just glad all this stuff is coming out before the election and not after. And these are words directly from Kamala Harris's mouth, so it can't be denied. Now, the next clip we're going to show you is about gender affirming care for minors now. And this is, again, coming from the Kamala Harris administration. This time, the words aren't from Kamala Harris's mouth directly, but she's made many statements supporting these exact desires of the
gender
administration.
affirming care. And
let's play the clip just so they can see before I go crazy.
First thing I want to say is the person you're about to see is the health minister, and it is also a brave transgender woman. So beautiful.
Affirming care is life-saving, medically necessary, age-appropriate, and a critical tool for healthcare providers. As a pediatrician, when it comes to making sure kids are healthy and happy, I know how important care that affirmed someone's true identity can be.
We also got Kamala Harris.
Okay, now they're talking about affirming children's, minors, people. I was reading an article today that this is running rampant, and again, in the California school system in 3rd grade. They're getting people to renounce their whiteness and affirm their gender identity. This idea of gender identity is being given to kids before they even know what gender identity is. Like, they're not, it's a form of brainwashing, and it just pisses me off. And I will say this again, I don't care if you're an adult and you want to get a sex change. That's completely fine, unless it's in prison and you're raping people. Then it's not fine.
Yep.
You can go. No.
Well, and especially with the whole fact that it's like gender affirming care for minors, a lot of people have no idea what that means. So they want to support it. They want to be, good bleeding heart liberals and just be on board with the whole program. But gender affirming care is mutilation of young children. It is changing their body organs and changing their hormones and giving them puberty blockers, which a lot of people say are completely reversible, which they are not. Once you've cooked a chicken, you cannot uncook that chicken. So once you change the biological and physiological ways a children's body operates and works, they can't get that back. They can't keep growing. Once you block their puberty, it's blocked forever. They can't go back. They can't reset it. And if you want more information about this, again, I'm going to shout him out. You should go check out Billboard Chris, because he talks about this ad nauseum and does it in a great way.
So people are aware of how they're doing this. They're doing this through revoking parental rights. They're getting rid of parental rights and inhibiting them as much as possible, and instituting teachers and schools and the CDC's rights. And why do I bring up the CDC? Because the Biden administration specifically has a huge plan to implant the CDC into thousands of schools across the U.S. But you say, why do they want to bring the CDC in? Aren't they the people that made the vaccines? No, they're far more than that. They're trying to bring doctors and healthcare into the school system and not tell the parents on what's going on. So the parents aren't going to have to give informed consent because it's between a doctor and a minor. And they want to erase the fact that you need informed consent. So for vaccines, they're going to be able to give children vaccines without parental consent. They're going to be able to hide the identity of if a boy child is now wanting to be a girl, they don't have to tell the parents. If they want to give them puberty blockers, they can now give them puberty blockers directly in the school through the CDC.
Because the CDC is in there and connected with the nurses.
And now they want antidepressant medications. Now that goes on. And now next thing is, the student is feeling suicidal and they're telling the teacher that. So now there might be abuse in the home. We have to have an investigation on the parents. This thing can spiral out of control really quick, and you need to keep the CDC out of schools, period.
And they're, again, saying that it's for benevolent reasons, but children have parents for a reason. And as Billboard Chris says, children cannot consent to puberty blockers because they don't fully understand what it could do to their bodies, what it could do to their even minds, and where they'll end up if they regret their decision. Well, now it's too late. And I think some of the whole consent talk and saying that, children can give their own consent and you should let children decide and you should let children be independent and maybe let the CDC come in and treat the children without the parents knowing. Well, where else does consent lead? I mean, I'm just going to say it like this, we're seeing a lot of the P. Diddy allegations, and I'm guessing it's going towards there, where they're trying to take this whole
going towards
children
MAPS. And if you don't know what MAPS is, this is a definition for pedophiles that they're calling minor attracted people now.
Files.
PDF
we don't
files.
want to get blocked.
Well, we probably already got blocked at this point. But they're calling them minor attracted people and trying to make them a protected group. Are you out of your mind?
And that's the thing a lot of people don't understand about the outrage a lot of people have against the progressive liberal Democratic Party. It is that they're trying to institute and supporting and pushing forward all of these ideas and all of this ideology and all of these people. And even though, yes, some of the ideas might be normal, most of them, they're turning towards this side where it's like, where is your mind? They're so open-minded, their brains are falling out.
This is the thing. The LGBTQ community needs to police their own. So transgendered people need to police their own. These LGBTQ community need to police their own. And when they're trying to implement these radical political policies, it's going to turn against that community. And it's not going to be good. So before this happens in Mexico, which had already happened in the States,
and in Canada.
And in Canada, yeah.
And I have to shout
but
out,
in Mexico, it hasn't. The Mexican LGBTQ community has an ability to police their own before crazy policies are implemented.
But speaking about policing your own, I need to shout out another great organization, which is Gays Against Groomers, which is exactly what we're talking about. If you don't know who they are, go check out their Twitter. It's Gays Against Groomers. And it is the gay community, the rational people of the gay community that don't just go along with it, exposing and talking against and going to school board meetings and saying hey, I'm a gay, whatever, and I don't agree with what they're now teaching children, the direction that my ex community has started to lead everything into. So,
well, I would say this: Gays Against Groomers is just common sense for the gay community. Unless you want the gay community and the lesbian community to completely disappear, you're gonna want to be against this stuff because they're telling children that think they're gay and lesbian that they're not gay and lesbian and they're actually transgendered and they need to mutilate themselves, which is taking them out of that community. So
they're transing the gay away, and it's a whole thing that they talk about. So go follow that.
Let me say this. Okay. In conservative, ultra conservative societies, such as in certain Middle Eastern societies,
in Iran,
Tehran, people aren't considered gay. They just get transgendered surgeries. It's one of the highest transgendered surgery places in the world, even higher than Thailand. And they're not considered gay once they get the sex change. They're just considered to be a woman. And this is why there is no gay people in Tehran. And that's what maybe they're trying to bring to the United States through this. I don't know.
Well, hopefully not.
I can't figure out what they're trying to do.
They're, again, trying to distort
let's
everybody's
go.
views of society.
Let's get off of this subject now. It's pissing me off. Okay, the next one's at 6:40 is the timestamp.
Yep.
On this, there's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
If you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
You know, we're talking about extreme stances.
That was it.
Okay, so these clips are about freedom of speech. And last night, if you watched the debate, Tim Walz was again talking about we need to take free speech. John Kerry, the other day, we showed a clip on this show which he was talking about free speech is the First Amendment is standing in the way of their agenda, and that we need to elect them through elections into supermajorities so they can get rid of the First Amendment. Like, this is absolutely insane. Now, Tim Walz, a lot of people might have not noticed it because it was when they were arguing back and forth, and I wish J.D. Vance was just a little more quiet at that point. But he said, hate speech, you can't have hate speech. Hate speech is code for we want to take your free speech away. And there's not a lot of nations in the world that have free speech. America has that in their constitution, and it's a valued freedom, and it needs to continue to be a valued freedom. But under this Kamala Harris administration, if they get in, that is definitely the target. They've gone after, they've colluded with large corporations and social media corporations in order to take away free speech, or at least dampen the effects of free speech.
And they want to make it seem like that's not what they want to do. They're just trying to protect the people. But again, that's how it starts. I mean, you can't, offending somebody, it should not prevent you from having free speech, because that is the most important speech we have, the one we disagree with, because then we can debate ideas, we can go back and forth. And actually, that's how the whole project of the U.S. kind of was built, by talking and debating.
Well, the Jews had the right idea. They back...
I'm switching my camera.
Back when there was protests, and back in the day, there were a lot of racists in the United States outwardly, and they would have marches against Jewish people. And the Jewish people actually defended the right for those people to march and have their voices heard, because free speech was that important. And the United States evolved out of that. And it's not the huge racist country it's made out to be anymore. And you got to really hand it for Jewish people for standing up for freedom of speech when they did, because that really set a major precedent in the United States and showed the rest of the world what free speech means. Nobody's against free speech when it's, nice words, but when it's hateful words and it's words that offend people, people now want to take away free speech, but that's when it's needed most.
Yes, I was trying to look up, we're coming from Canada, and there we know firsthand there is no such thing as free speech. They're trying to legislate more and more the whole
hate speech was the way that they took
stuff
away free speech in Canada. Basically, they implemented hate speech laws, and then they had protected groups. So if you said anything hateful about these protected groups, now they're trying to, then you would be imprisoned, or you would have to go to court over it.
Yeah. You'd have to go before the human rights tribunal.
And the newest thing they're trying to do now is there all these mass babies in graves that were never in graves that people are pointing out. They're trying to say, well, that's hate speech, and if you say that, you can be locked up.
The First Nations.
Yeah, but you're basically calling out a lie that they're saying, and they're saying you can't call us liars even though it's proven.
Mm-hmm. And of course, always the way they're going to frame it is that it is good for society, that we need to protect people and we need to have more security for everybody, and that's how it becomes a nanny security state.
This progressive liberalism is becoming a cult religion, is what it is becoming in every way, shape, and form. It's absolutely insane.
And if you can't speak out against it because your government doesn't let you, well, then they have absolute power, because by speaking and by letting other people know, that is the most valuable tool and even valuable weapon that somebody could have. That's why for the First Amendment, and the way the U.S. Constitution is viewed, is that the First Amendment is the most important one, and then the second one is there to protect in case the first one doesn't work.
And if the government oversteps its bounds.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go into the next one. It's at 8:07 is the timestamp?
Yes.
7 Alert Center with breaking news. The Texas Department of Public Safety is confirming to ABC7 that more than 20 suspected Tren de Aragua gang members were arrested at the Gateway Hotel in downtown El Paso. Texas Governor Greg Abbott designated the gang as a terrorist organization on September 16th, calling El Paso, quote, ground zero for Tren de Aragua activity. A slide that was presented during his announcement featured documented activity of the gang throughout Texas. Texas DPS provided information to ABC7 Thursday showing a large concentration of arrests here in El Paso, including the March 2024 alleged border riot. Those arrested face various charges, including human smuggling, prostitution, and possession of illegal drugs. Abbott offered a $5,000 reward for any information on the suspected Tren de Aragua activity.
Over 20 suspected Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gang members were just arrested at a hotel in El Paso.
I was trying to reply to the chat.
Okay, thank you to the Liberal Hive Mind again
Yes.
for our clips.
Yeah,
if you
they're a
haven't
good
watched
source as
Liberal
well.
Hive Mind, check them out.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I brought up these Venezuelan gangs, it's because Kamala Harris keeps denying that criminals are coming across the border. And it's not just criminals. It's not just one or two criminals. It's literally tens of thousands of convicted criminals from organized Venezuelan gangs, and not just Venezuelan gangs, but some of the worst of the societies that are immigrating to the United States, and they're criminals. Now, this is why you want legal immigration, so you can background check and screen the people that are coming in and to appropriately give them the services they need. You don't want convicted murderers, and there's thousands of convicted murderers, and the statistics on this have already come out, and the Democrats are trying to deny this. But thousands of convicted murderers from Venezuela specifically are flowing across the border, and there should be no reason why you're going to allow a convicted murderer to immigrate to your country. It's not a good immigration policy at all. But what J.D. Vance did say in the debate last night, which I did like, is they try to fact check him and say, all the Haitian migrants in Ohio are illegal, the 25,000 or 20,000 or whatever it is. And he spoke up and he said, well, yeah, they're legal only because of radical democratic immigration policies that say you just fill out this app on your phone and you automatically get asylum and you get to come into the United States for a multiple year period. Like, how are you supposed to, right now, there's no way to deny murderers that want to come into your country.
And something that also, being someone that is from Mexico, it actually just infuriates me when the people and the Democrats try to deny that this is happening and saying that, no, we just need to help all of these migrants and all of these people. The fact that they can't understand in their brains that people lie. People will say they are seeking asylum when sometimes they aren't. But if they had a better system and if they had a better way, number one, to kind of stop the bleeding, as J.D. Vance kind of alluded to yesterday, and secondly, to background check these people and to actually have a normal immigration process like every other single country does almost, well, then we wouldn't even be having these discussions. And more facts are coming out, more and more videos are coming out of what migrants are doing, not just squatting, but also going after people, robbing, murdering, etc. So no, it's not everybody, but it is a subsection of them. And you cannot just say that because they're coming from a poorer country, because they might have faced challenges, that you have to 100% believe them.
They had this whole situation worked out. Donald Trump had a laundry list of executive orders like remain in Mexico and things like this, where people would be pre-screened before they were allowed across the border. They had much more border security. He was building a wall. He also had a digital security wall. You want to convert illegal migrants into legal migrants, and you want to be able to background screen them, and you want to make sure children aren't being used as drug mules. This is another thing that came up and is coming up. These kids that are being used as drug mules, and they're being re-ran across the border multiple times.
And the fact that Tim Walz even said, like, no, that's not happening. They're not using children for that. Of course they are. There are full documentaries and there are full investigations going on from the U.S. government itself that prove that has been happening.
The Tucker Carlson Network has a huge documentary coming out where well-known journalists travel with the cartels. So I don't know how they got that kind of access, but it's going to be interesting when it does come out. But of course, this is happening. And the fact that the problem was already solved, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden specifically ran on that they were going to reform Donald Trump's executive orders about immigration because they were racist and they were going to tear down the wall. And that's exactly what they did. And then the floodgates opened and all these criminal migrants came in.
Because even during the, for example, Obama administration, I mean, that's when the whole children in cages thing started. That was from the Obama administration, not from Donald Trump. But the fact that they were, like Biden and Kamala, were so intent to prove themselves as these benevolent, bleeding heart, oh, let's let everybody in because poor little migrants. Well, now they just didn't say, okay, we're going to start opening the process.
Well,
no, they opened the floodgates and they completely...
I do want to say this.
I
do want to say this. And if anybody doubts me, just look up the statistics. The United States welcomes more immigrants than any other country in the world, and they've done so for decade after decade after decade after decade. It is the melting pot of the world, but what they want is legal immigration and the ability to do background checks so they can appropriately integrate these people into the American society. Otherwise, you have what happens in Canada. These cultures stick in their own communities and they don't integrate into the greater Canada. And they're told there is no Canadian culture. They're getting rid of Canada today in a lot of cities. They don't want migrants to adopt a Canadian culture. They say keep your own, which causes more division and rifts in the country.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, they say that, yes, these poor migrants are coming from poorer countries, from South America, from Central America, and for example, with the Tren de Aragua situation, that is true, but there's also so many people flying in to right where the border is and then just crossing from countries that are like clear threats to the U.S. that have been designated that way by the U.S. government itself, and now they're just letting them go in. So it's not just about like the poor migrants that are coming from sad little countries. It's about just the pouring in of whoever wants to go in. And I mean, we know a lot of countries don't like the U.S. So this is a great opportunity.
You have 24 million illegal migrants have flooded over the border in the last few years. And countries that don't have this problem with illegal migration and criminalized illegal migration specifically want to try to say, well, these people are just looking for a better life. Look, if Donald Trump starts deporting people, let's say he gets half of that. Let's say he gets 12 million of the migrants and he throws them in Tijuana. Do you think Mexico is going to accept them? No, there's going to be a huge problem with through the Mexican people, and they're not going to want those people in their country because they can't handle the influx of that many people at once. Yeah. That's why when I talk about legal immigration, it's not like America doesn't have the highest legal immigration rate of any other country in the world by an exceeding measure. They are doing their part. So let's go to the next story.
Well, then speaking about doing their part, I mean, they're giving all of these migrants these hotel rooms and cell phones, sex changes apparently now, but for their own people. And with the hurricanes that have been ravaging the U.S., I mean, we have here a firsthand account. It's a little long, so I'll probably fast forward a little bit, but just listen to this young lady speaking about her grandmother and how they just cannot... It's 3 minutes. But
don't fast forward it.
How they cannot get resources in North Carolina, and she's completely appalled by it.
What the government is doing right now to the entire state of North Carolina and Tennessee
I haven't seen this.
Is nothing short of just plain awful. Like, I do not physically have the words for it, because if you don't know, we have not heard from my aunt since Friday because of Hurricane Helene, and there is no government aid. None. Zero. Zilch. There's a few, but it's small government offices mainly run by civilians. Because you want to know what's happening right now in North Carolina and Tennessee? There are entire towns that there is no way in or out. Those roads are not drivable because of the mudslides and the power lines and the downed trees. There are doctors right now physically walking across that because their cars can't get through to go help these people, to go check on these people. There's a mudslide by my aunt's house because she lives on a mountain. She lives in the middle of it. There are currently civilians digging that mudslide out with their bare fucking hands.
Sorry for the F-bomb.
That's what's happening right now. There is no power. There is no water. They have no supplies. And the government is currently trying to arrest people who are delivering supplies via helicopter. They are threatening to arrest those people. They are threatening to arrest people who are trying to fucking help people survive. My aunt is 70 years old.
Okay, maybe that's good. We don't want to get getting too many.
Yeah, for too many F-bombs. But I mean, she goes on to say, I mean, where is Kamala Harris? Where is Joe Biden? Where is any of the aid?
I'll tell you where they are. They've literally sent the National Guard out from some of these states that are, these are the actual states hit by the flood. they are sending the National Guards of those states over to Ukraine and over to Israel right now. Now, I understand if you want to send soldiers, send them from other National Guard divisions, not where National Guard traditionally will help any natural disaster. They provide natural disaster relief. And the fact that he's sending these people away is absolutely crazy. Also, I understand that, aid workers can become victims as well, and it can compound the problem. But a lot of these people are from actual organizations and actually have good equipment to help these people. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're prosecuting them is crazy. Also, I was reading articles about the ESG and the DEI policies of the aid workers. Or the aid that's being provided. They're wanting to give it to specific communities first that have high minority populations. Like, you shouldn't be having racist policies that you're putting one group of people above another. Wherever you can have the biggest impact and the biggest help in these communities and in these states is where you should be going to, not based on upon skin color or the amount of money these people are making or have.
And I mean, we also have here, Brianna Morello saying that the Biden-Harris regime and North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper are refusing to deploy search and rescue teams to help Americans trapped after Hurricane Helene. These teams have been in the area since Sunday, but haven't been granted authorization to rescue anyone. So they have to be granted authorization to go in, otherwise they will be, what's it called when you don't follow an order? Well, they'll be in contempt, essentially. But I mean, here is the story of the helicopter pilot threatened with arrest after flying rescue missions in flood-ravaged North Carolina. A South Carolina pilot who flew, not North Carolina, yeah.
Western North Carolina is where a lot of this damage is at, but it's in multiple states.
Yeah, so who flew stranded Hurricane Helene victims in flood-ravaged North Carolina to safety, claims he was told he would be arrested if he continues their rescue missions. And Jordan stayed home, was flying victims of the devastation over the weekend when local leaders told him there was a flight restriction on the area and that they would have to arrest him if he continued making flights. And I mean, again, I just wanted to show that what that young lady was saying is true. And at the end, she goes on and says that right now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is campaigning in Las Vegas as we speak. And then Joe Biden is pretty much...
Yeah, I haven't seen Joe Biden and Harris out there yet. And Trump was in there within hours or within the day. It was absolutely insane. Like, you want your leaders on the ground. It just sends a message to the people of those states.
Yeah, and they're even having to, as this post says, doing mule supply delivery. They're having to use pack mules because cars and other vehicles and people have to kind of trudge through mud to get up and help. And I mean, it's great that people are doing that and that people are kind of rallying behind the people that have been ravaged by hurricanes. But I mean, it is unbelievable that the leaders of the country, one is missing and one is campaigning and trying to fundraise for her own campaign.
Well, all the good leadership seems to be in the red states. I mean, you have Ron DeSantis, who said they've taken care of the problem. They're currently doing it now. I realize they're not hit as hard as these other states, but Ron DeSantis specifically had a press conference where he said, we have this under control. If you have any other aid resources that were going to be brought to us, give it to Western North Carolina or North Carolina and the other states that are in more need of it. So that is just good leadership right there. And although I know I did say J.D. Vance just took Ron DeSantis out of being the 2028 nominee for the Republican Party, he is still a really good governor. He's one of the best governors out there. I just didn't like a lot of the things he was saying in the campaign.
And I mean, when you see Trump and like all the people coming out and even some commentators, podcasters going out or at least donating and trying to help, I mean, they always say that you have to judge people's characters in a crisis because seeing how they react is essentially how they are. And just exactly seeing how the Democrats are treating this as opposed to, and I mean, sending over who knows how much more money to Ukraine right before this.
Well, whoever wins this election is going to get a shit sandwich. The U.S. economy is in a bad situation. The wars that are starting to break out are crazy. The economics, I mean, just the border, the dock workers, the number of things that are ready to go wrong as soon as the next president takes over, whether that's Trump or Kamala Harris, where you really want to have somebody that's tested through the fire and see, like, why do we want him as a leader? Because the next leader isn't going to have the easy time like like Joe Biden did, or even like Trump did the first time. Now, I realize Trump had to deal with a crisis like COVID at the end, and so did Biden, but It's just not the same. What are they going to do in these times of war when wars are breaking out across the globe? Trump has shown he's willing to talk to other or enemies or people that are just not on the U.S. side traditionally, but he's willing to have open conversations. When it comes to disasters on the ground, Trump's on the ground immediately, showing that he's there for the people. Trump immediately, even before he's on the ground, he's giving a press conference. He's saying something. He's saying, we're coming. We hear you. God bless you. Our hearts are with you. Things like this, things you want to hear your leader say.
And the fact that the Kamala campaign and like the leftist media is trying to make out that Trump is doing this only to campaign is absolutely disgusting, because even if there's a little bit of that element involved, at least he's doing something. He's going there. He cares at least a little bit. So
and
I mean, I hope the people of the hurricane ravaged cities get the help they need. And I mean, it's horrible that number one, nobody from the administration is doing anything, but number two, that they're not letting the people that actually want to go help actually go help. I mean, if you don't want to do it, let somebody that wants to.
Yeah, rather than prosecuting these people for helping, they should put a division of the National Guard together to organize all these people, because a lot of these people are locals. They have the equipment, they have the pack mules, they have the helicopters. They just want to get in there and help.
And
the government doesn't want to spend the resources, or they don't have the resources. Not a big deal. Just put a National Guard troop there to organize what the civilians are willing to do already. And thanks again to Elon Musk for supplying Starlink to that region, because they do not have communications. Like they said, they can't contact their family members. They don't even know if they're alive. So
exactly. That's a sad note to end.
That was a hell of a show today.
Yeah.
It was very intense.
Yes.
If
I'm telling you, there's something in the planets or something. I don't believe in that, but it feels like it.
Well,
when they say like Mercury's in retrograde and they do all their little...
Sorry for anybody that watched my morning show. I know I'm constantly apologizing about that thing, but man, today was really bad. I didn't have the sound working for the first couple minutes.
Yeah.
You'll see me, if you watch it back, you'll see me panicking.
It's funny. I was there trying to fix it.
Funny for you.
Well, no, because I was trying to fix it. But well, for now, please like, subscribe, share it if you so dare.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, okay. I got a morning show every morning at 10 a.m. West Coast time in the States and 1 p.m. Eastern. That's live with the guy. And our show now comes on at 4 p.m. West Coast time and 7 p.m. Eastern. Okay.
Yes. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share it. And thank you. And I said thank you for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Adios.
There we go.